What's up, guys? Welcome back to the ninth edition of Two Pros and an Average Joe. I'm Brady Hanna, and I'm joined by Jeremy Koling and Paul Ulibarri.
Yeah. What's up, guys? Big Jerm here. Excited to come back with you guys another episode, and down here hanging out at the Jonesboro Open in Arkansas.
Yeah, man. Just saw Jerm yesterday, so I'm in the same place. I'm in Jonesboro, getting ready for, I don't know, what is this, Jerm? Like the 5th Pro Tour stop on the year?
Man, we're I think this is the 4th one. The Memorial, Waco, Nick Hyde, and this is the 4th one. We got the Utah Open in a month. Then there's 5-week break until Ledgestone, and then we have Vibram, and I think it finishes at the Vermont. Am I right in that? But either way, we
go to Vermont, and then we finish the finales in Florida.
Oh, okay, that's right. But yeah, we're well into the season. Almost a full third, almost even more than that, into the Pro Tour already, and it's the tour's going by pretty fast, but it's been pretty exciting season so far.
Actually, the tour's been going slower than I've ever imagined it could possibly go.
Really?
We were stuck in Texas for 2.5 years, it seemed like.
5 weeks
and,
in Texas it can be grueling.
Yeah, that was incredible. I don't think I've ever stayed in a place and played tournaments for more than a month anywhere. And then the fact that I hate Texas more than any place to play disc golf. No offense to Texas and all the hard work they do, but it's
that's
true.
only offensive to Texas. But go ahead.
Yep, that's fine. That's fine. The people there know.
You love the people, but maybe you don't love the disc golf so much.
Yep, of course.
You know what's funny?
And
go on. Sorry.
No, so yeah, then I was there for a month. I just decided, hey, why not go to the place where I've never played good for my whole season?
A guy joined my car today for a practice round at Jonesboro, and he's from Houston, and he asked me after the round, he's like, Jerm, why does everyone hate Texas disc golf? And I had to, I kind of went into, well, it can be kind of ugly sometimes, and all the trees are pokey, and there's rattlesnakes and stuff like that. But honestly, I think that we got really lucky with the stops that we had in Texas. I wasn't necessarily blown away with a couple of the courses, but for the most part, I think we actually got to play some really fantastic disc golf courses, some that I've actually never played before. And those would include the Evergreen course that we just played last weekend for the Texas States. So that was a beautiful, fantastic, fair golf course that everyone left feeling like, yeah, that was fun and fair. Waco, the Beast course, was a complete delight. Had never even heard of it until the Texas Swing, and I heard a lot of people kind of talking about it leading up to the event, and it surpassed my expectations. And I kind of enjoy playing. I really enjoy playing Harry Myers. I know that you maybe don't love it as much as I do, Paul, but I know that in general, I feel like we maybe played 8 different courses in the last 5 weeks in Texas, and I'd say that I probably thoroughly enjoyed 5 or 6 of them, which is a pretty good ratio for being somewhere for so long.
Yeah, I mean, this trip to Texas was definitely the best trip that I've had to Texas. As far as the courses, you're right. They're the best courses that I've played in Texas to date.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the fact that it's Texas, though. That's like the fact.
It's still in there.
It's still in.
Barbecue.
Yeah, it's still in. You can't eat anything but Mexican food. It's impossible. I literally went to I went to Panda Express, and they said, "What kind of burrito would you like?" I was like, "What? No, orange chicken. Chicken."
You also went to Chick-fil-A and asked them if they had any more Chipotle. So you were actually looking for burritos when you went to places that didn't have burritos. So
I ate Chick-fil-A 48 times because they're the only place that didn't Have burritos on the menu.
Well, that's just because
Oh
you
my
don't like
gosh.
red meat, because Texas is king of barbecue. I love Kansas City barbecue. Even though I'm a North Carolina guy, I'm not big on the pulled pork and the vinegar barbecue. I'm much more about the really fatty, moist brisket, and I like good ribs. And Texas really kills it. In fact, I was lucky enough to go to the Texas Barbecue Festival in Arlington, and that was an experience because that was like the top 25 Texas barbecue joints all competing for the Barbecue of the Year award. And there was some good food, but you're not going to
Really?
eat that. Yeah, well, you don't like red
What
meat. So,
burrito won?
oh my God, get out of here. I'm pretty sure that what ended up winning was bacon wrapped
The steak
burnt ham.
quesadilla.
Yeah, okay. All right. Well, anyways, Brady, what kind of topics do we have today?
Topics lined up for discussion. I wanted to start out with, what are your guys' thoughts on the completion of tournaments before, the scheduled amount of time? Like we've seen it recently with, I don't know, what was the Texas event? The last Disc Golf Pro Tour, the Nick Hyde ended
Nick Hyde.
around. Some tall, lanky dude won. I think it was the USDGC around early.
I don't remember that. I can't think back that far.
Yeah, I can't remember.
I
his name.
can. I remember.
He was it was a William Shakespeare looking guy, I recall. Big head of hair.
All right. Let's move on. Let's talk about it.
So obviously,
yeah.
Jeremy, I don't want to say this like this, but you kind of benefited from one of those situations. But I still think you'll give us unfiltered opinion on,
Sure.
What do you think?
Well, I mean,
He's
kinda
like, I
benefited.
wish it would
I definitely
happen every
benefited from it. I was
time.
definitely gonna lose if we played one more round. What are you talking about? No, I think that it's really, I can't imagine a bigger nightmare for a tournament director. I mean, you spend. I mean, I know Jonathan Poole puts almost an entire year into that event. He gets sponsors, and it's end of his premier event. It's a big deal to not finish out the last round and crown the champion in their eyes as the right way with the fireworks and the proper award ceremony is just a heartbreaker for them. I mean, and that's not even the players that don't get the opportunity to get that fourth round in and really shuffle the cards the way that, you get 4 rounds at the USCGC. That's the way it is. So having it cut short 3 rounds is a worst nightmare for everyone. Logistically, it's just a hassle, and it's, it kind of leaves a bad taste in everyone's mouth. I think that in the future, what can be done, and also before I move on, I know Matt Seary spends an incredible amount of time, almost the same as JP, setting up for the Nick Hyde. That tournament means the world to him, and he does so much to make sure that event is run exactly the way he wants to run it. And for that to not end the way that he wanted it to end brought him to tears. I mean, he was really emotional about it. He hates to be the one to make that call because everyone's going to have their opinion. Was it the right thing to do? Was it not the right thing to do? And everyone's going to have a different perspective on the matter. So, in the end, the decision in both events was made out of safety. And I believe, in my honest opinion, that both calls had to be made the way that they were made. And it's just my personal perspective, regardless of the fact that I was the benefactor in one of those tournaments. But that being said, I think that the reason that we kind of have tournaments set up the way they are now is because we're still kind of stuck in our original grassroots model of disc golf events. And by that, I mean, the majority of tournament players have always been traditionally people who have jobs, people who make a transit to get to a tournament, who plan on spending a few days playing a tournament and going back to their jobs, wife, kids, etc., back home. Disc golf has evolved in the last couple of years. We are a different sport than we've ever been. We're constantly progressing. And I think that the large tournaments, we're not talking about B tiers and obviously not C tiers here, but pro tours, world tours, national tours, and majors, the big events that people are actually like spending their life traveling, committing their lives to being a professional. These people are on the road constantly. Logistically, if an event states before it starts that there will be an extra day handed out for competition, if one of those rounds is canceled due to weather or whatever else, then those people are responsible for making that decision to stay behind. I know that Glassblown did that with their emails. They said if something happens due to weather, expect another day of competition. And that then forces the responsibility on the player to say, hey, if I take this seriously, I'm not going to book a flight, Monday morning or Sunday morning if the tournament ends on Saturday. That way that removes all liability on the tournament directors and it allows them to run an event with a proper amount of rounds, regardless of what happens with weather. And as we move forward and we run bigger events into the future, now that this has happened 2 times in the last 6 or 7 months, although it's never really happened before or it hasn't happened in many years, the only other time it's ever happened to me that a round was canceled was the Minnesota Majestic back in 2010. But that was like the second round. So it wasn't the last round. People still got the final day and they knew, this was the last chance they were going to have. But with that being said, it's important for people to know in the future that might be the way that tournaments are ran from here on out. It's up to you. You make your plans according to the fact that there could be one extra day. That's what they do in golf tournaments. If they can't finish the round on Sunday, they play on Monday.
I absolutely agree, Jerm. I think you're spot on with that. And the more money that comes in the sport, the more people can be on the road, and that is much more acceptable. Absolutely. I remember people complaining about flights having to go home for USDGC and stuff like that, and I was just like, gosh, our sport is so far behind that flights can't be changed without serious financial hardship. Think about a PGA golfer. You're like, well, I'll just cancel it. When there's more money coming in the sport, I think it'll be a lot easier for people to make travel arrangements and like you said, really legitimize these tournaments. So, Paul, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, Jerm hit on some really good points, and I completely agree. The sport's growing, and with that, change has to happen in a positive way. And if we want to be known as an actual sport, then we're going to have to start operating as one. And with that comes planning on. You have to have a final round. That just has to be in place, in my opinion. I mean, sure, you can cancel like the second round, but you have to have a final round. There has to be a showdown. There has to be a chance for those guys to compete for the title.
You need it for the spectators, and you also need it for coverage. I mean, you need people knowing that you have 3 holes left and this player's down 1 stroke. That draws the drama, and that's what sports are all about. Sports are about drama.
Now there is times when there has been times in the PGA where tournaments have been cut short and the final round hasn't been played. So it's not like a crazy thing for it to happen. It happens all the time. It's happened. I think it might have happened last year on the PGA Tour, to where the final round was canceled and whoever was in first place won the tournament. It's just like Jerm said, for the players, for the tournament director, for people who came out to watch, all that stuff. I mean, that's just it's a bummer. There's no better word to say. It's just a bummer for everybody involved. But at the end of the day, it's safety. And when you're a tournament director and you're in charge of 200 people, even if it's close, you have to make that call. So, like you said, with Jonathan Poole and Matt Seary making the calls that they did, it was the right call, because you can't gamble with people's lives, because that's what's at stake. I mean, when it's lightning and stuff like that, you just can't gamble. Man, how bad would it be if he said, okay, no, we'll play, and then a tree fell on somebody and somebody got really hurt or injured? I mean, that's directly Matt Seary's fault, nobody else's. And so that call has to be made, and you can't, as a player, you can't argue with that, because there's just nothing to argue about.
Right.
If he says, hey, I canceled it because of safety, then
right.
Well, it's nice now. Yeah, but it wasn't at the time, and I didn't want to see anybody get hurt. I mean, there's nothing to
Right.
argue with or anything. And so
I think that was what was kind of controversial about the decision. I think that if you were studying the radar at the Nick Hyde, you were watching clear clouds or clear skies come in later on in the afternoon. And so a lot of people were making the decision, well, it's nice out right now. However, the ground at Nick Hyde, I actually, at Harry Myers, I practiced the day after it rained a good bit in the middle of the night. The next day, when I went out to practice, it was a sunny day. It was dry. I felt like the clay and the mud was going to be fine. My shoes were absolutely caked. The tee pads were caked with other competitors who were out there practicing, walking on the tee pads. And even though it was a super nice day outside, just because it rained the night before, the conditions were really slick on the tee pads. And that's fine. We play on slick tee pads. That's not a reason to cancel the tournament. But the conditions while it's raining, I can't even imagine how much of a mess that place was. And I certainly don't want to play on a course. I think that it becomes a huge safety concern if somebody slips and falls really hard and hurts himself because the tee pads are unsuitable to be played on. That lands on the tournament director as well. However, like I said before, we do deal with conditions that are pretty non-ideal, I would say, in terms of tee pad surfaces and other things. But if the lightning comes down, strikes a tree, and it falls next to the player and lands on their arm, or even worse, lands on their head, that's something that changes the face of the game forever. And you just can't make that risk. So nobody's faulting Matt Seary at all, or JP. It's just one of those situations that, like I said, we have been traditionally a catered sport to the casual player. And these bigger events need to start being more catered to the professional player. If we're going to call it the Professional Disc Golf Association, or we're going to call it the National Tour for the professionals, it needs to be catered to those who are treating it like a job. And if other people aren't treating it like a job, that's fine. But just know that there's going to be potentially a situation that's not accommodated to the lesser serious players anymore, Yeah,
it's a easy fix in my opinion. Just from now on, say, hey, if there's weather delays for the final round, plan on playing the next day. It's
Right.
that simple. It's that simple. You have to plan on the last day, and you can gamble and be like, okay, no, look at the weather report and be like, no, it looks fine. I'm gonna go and play Sunday. But if it says, hey, Sunday could be thunderstorms, then you just plan for an extra day. That's just the way it's going to have to be from now on.
And I think that means that you can change your 4-round events through Wednesday through Saturday, and your 3-day events, Thursday through Saturday. And that gives you the Sunday buffer day. I don't really think that the majority of players are going to love playing their 4th round on Monday. So I think that you can avoid that situation by bringing the events a day forward. But that's really up to the TD's discretion there on that when he wants to run those events.
Yeah, and that's super rare to cancel a final round. So it's not like you're going to be canceling rounds like once a month. Oh, the World Championships is going to end on a Monday. And so it's like a rare case. I don't think a Monday would be that big a deal.
Could you imagine the World Championships ending on a Friday because Saturday was canceled? No Final 9, no last round? Oh, my goodness.
God, I hope so this year. I'd be like a 4-time world champion.
We got 4-time Friday world champion Paul Ulibarri on the line right now.
That sounds great.
But yeah, I think Brady, honestly, it's a pretty simple fix. It's a situation that ideally we don't have to ever worry about in our career ever again, but that's weather. The Pro Tour seems to move around to wherever the weather is the worst currently, because I can't even begin to tell you how many times we showed up to a place and the locals were like, man, it never rains here, and we're just like dodging like 4-foot wide hail, just demons.
Every local is a hillbilly too, according to Jerm.
Everyone that I ever make fun of is always got this southern accent. It's just where I'm from. So.
Hey man, it's never rained here ever.
Man, I've never seen frogs fly that way. It's like always we deal with the worst conditions. So it probably will happen again, but most likely,
It is
if
supposed
history
to
has
rain
anything to
here
say,
on Sunday.
it is.
Yeah, of course.
Well,
Why wouldn't
that's going to be awful because those tee pads are going to be hard to throw on because they're Astro or they're the turf tee pads. Anyways, but yeah, I hope that we don't have to deal with it ever again for the players' sake and for the TD's sake, but also, the spectators want to see that last round. And, the spectators are becoming more and more a part of the culture of our sport, and catering to them and what they want is as important as it's ever been. It's actually more important now than it's ever been before. You were getting 25 to 50,000 views per video posted of online or of coverage. So it's, we really have to cater to what works best for the fans, because in all sports that where fans are a big part of the game, the fans are the ones that make the sport, important. That's the reason why the NBA, the NFL, the NHL, the MLB is so big, because of the fans. So we got to cater to them too.
So group consensus here is it's okay to maybe cancel an earlier round because of rain, but there has to be a final round regardless.
I think that
the consensus.
absolutely.
There's no minimum number of holes, but there's got to be a final finishing round to settle things.
Finishing a round with a lead is so much harder in the last round than it is the second, first, third, whatever round. So that's the round that, when you know that at the end of this round, this is the end of the tournament, showing up with the nerves that it takes to be the winner, that's when you really see what a person's made of. That's the most important round.
Right. Yes. Jerm, I actually won an A tier one time, and they canceled the final 9 due of rain, and I ended up winning the tournament by 2 strokes over Matt Oram. So I'm in the bad weather win column too. I have 1 under my belt.
Wow.
Yep, the High Plains Challenge.
You still would have won?
What's that?
Do you think you still would have won?
I was playing well, but I remember being very happy that it definitely canceled, because Matt Oram, I had him by 7 shots or something after going into the last round, and he caught back up to 2. And it was his decision not to play the final 9. He's like, man, I don't want to play, man. And I'm like, yeah, me neither. Why would we ever play? That would be so silly.
Oh, my gosh.
Well, another thing we didn't really consider is how does it feel for the winning player having to listen to crybabies like, I'll throw him out there, Nico. That day at USDGC, he posted probably 4 times trying to get people to come outside and basically finish it. How ridiculous. Jerm.
I don't know if this is something I should say or not, but I'm going to go ahead and say it. He called me, I think that day, and I saved the voicemail, and he said, what do you say, man? You, me, Ricky, MJ, we go out there and we film the last round, just the 4 of us, and we see who the real champion is. And I was just sitting there like, if he could just like understand from my perspective that there's no way that I would ever do something like that. Like, it was an emotional roller coaster for me to go through all that. Like, I woke up that morning not knowing what was going to happen. I was in bed, probably woke up around 8:30 in the morning, even though I didn't tee off till like 2 something. And I was a nervous wreck going into that last round. Like, that's the biggest day of my life potentially. And having all the news come in, oh, it's been pushed back 1 hour, then it was pushed back 2 hours, and then, oh, there's going to be a delay until Sunday. And then that's when the internet went crazy, because people just were losing their mind about that decision. And then they finally called the whole thing, and that whole ordeal, like, I'm sitting there trying to be as calm as I possibly can, just preparing. I still have to go out there and play my game. I still have to go out there and win, and not trying to get caught up in all the weather situations that were going on. And then finally the news passes, and I'm jumping up and down because, dude, I wanted to play that last round, but I'm just fine not playing it too. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's a huge deal for me. So I'm going crazy. Alex Geisinger and I are just hugging and jumping up and down because he's not going to have to miss work on Monday and get fired. And so, like, we're all having a good time. And then Nico wants me to go out there and play in those conditions and play a final round and have it filmed. No, I'm not going to do that. Like, are you kidding me? I just went through the most incredible emotional roller coaster of my life, and now you want me to play disc golf. Like, what could I possibly gain from that situation? You know what I'm saying? But, yeah, no, Ricky's been in the middle of that situation twice now. You know, Ricky was in striking distance in both events, and he was livid after Nick Hyde. I don't want to call him a crybaby for it. He has a legitimate reason to be upset, but, like, what are you going to do? You know, you can't fault the team.
And Nick Hyde, it sucked because literally when we were supposed to tee off, when we were scheduled to tee off after they made a couple adjustments, it was perfect weather out. That day ended up being one of the most beautiful days ever after it stopped raining. Like, it was perfect weather, no wind, nothing. And so that's why a lot of people, you know, may call Siri out for canceling or whatever, but like I said, it's not even a question. When you're gambling with people's lives, it's an easy decision, and I would have made the same decision 100%. Even though I think I got 40th place, I think I got 40th. I tied for last cash in the tournament,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm thinking I'm gonna make a big move. Of course, you know me, Jerm. I love the bad weather.
Yeah.
I like to get out there and grind it out. I'm that type of player. And I was ready for it. I was ready for both scenarios. USDGC, I was sitting in sixth. With all that wind and stuff, I legitimately thought that I had a chance to win the tournament.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but when it comes down to it, and those tournament directors, they have to make that decision. It's an easy decision. It really is.
Well, I don't want to say it's easy, but it's the right decision, and you can definitely live with that decision from their perspective. But
right, I mean, they let people play, and then nothing happens, and everybody's happy. But there's also that 1% chance, or 5% chance that something bad happens, and then it's their fault.
Yeah, right.
It's their fault, and only their fault. It's not the player's fault.
Right.
It just it's going to get to a point where, you get to be playing a large enough event, you have to click a box probably that recognizes if there's bad weather, you'll play a final round, and that'll be up to the tournament discretion as well, I'm sure. There'll be tournament directors who say, no, I don't support adding another day, and there'll be tournament directors who say, yeah, I support adding as many days as I need to get a final clear winner with a final round. That's another thing with the PDGA is there's really no standard on that kind of thing, and there's no standard on a lot of these things. So it'll be interesting to see which side of the fence tournament directors end up on, and if they make a standard for A tiers or NTs or anything like that that say there's got to be an extra day.
Now, I'm not 100% sure that that's true. I think there is something to where the tournament director can allow you to play the next day. I don't think I don't think it's a thing to where you can. I'm pretty sure that they can still say with any tournament, like, yeah, we're going to play tomorrow. I think.
Right. I'm saying it'll be a point now where you have to acknowledge as a player when you sign up for the event that in the possibility of bad weather, the treaty was going to make the decision that you'll play. Then there's no one complaining about travel, job, all that stuff. And it'll be, like I said, it'll be interesting to see what side of the fence TDs go on there.
Yeah, it takes the responsibility off the tournament director and puts it squarely back on the players. You click this box, you accepted the possibility of this happening, and now it's a good thing that Glassbone did it, honestly, because that weather in Emporia at that time of year, every year, for I don't even know how long going back, I swear there's a flood or something crazy happens. Pretty much Noah's Ark comes around every year at Peter Pan, and
there's been tornadoes and
dude,
oh my goodness,
I've
planes and
I've dodged tornadoes in Emporia 3 of the 5 years I've gone. There's been 2 floods. It's crazy. That place just breeds terrible weather at that time of year. So I think of any event that actually is setting the standard, it's great that it's Glassbone because we're going to be dealing with some inclement something or other coming up. I mean, has there ever not been a 45-mile-an-hour wind when we play the country club? Like, I cannot remember one time when the baskets weren't blowing sideways.
Last year.
Was it nice last year?
Yeah, when I took an 8 on that one hole and then you had the foot fault thing.
Oh, yeah, it was pretty windy, but yeah, maybe not like torrential, like downpour and hurricane weather, but still.
least. It was manageable.
Yeah. Well, anyways, what else we got to talk about today, Brady?
Well, I figured that one would take a bit of time, and it did. And I think there's a lot of really good things we talked about. So the other thing I wanted to kind of spitball was, new discs. Seems like the type of year that companies are coming out with new discs for the season, and I've been keeping an eye on what's been coming out and reactions online. I was wondering if you guys had added anything, new to your bag or tried any new discs out and had any recommendations. I know Discraft's come out with a machete that is seeming to be very popular, kind of a slower Nuke OS type disc. Looks very exciting for me in my one-side pony forehand game, so that's good. But what about you guys? Jerm, I know a lot of people are getting excited about that for the AVR 3.
I had one of the Proto AVR 3s. They're nice. I might spend some time in the field working on it. But right now it's not in my bag. I guess a new disc for me, even though it's not a new disc, is the mortar from Heiserbomb, which is within the Innova family. That's a disc that is it's the same thing as a beadless gator. It's just rebranded. Innova doesn't produce them anymore, so Heiserbomb took over that mold and called it the mortar. And I'm sure several people have heard of that or have thrown it at some point. But for me, I've really needed that low profile, really overstable approach disc. Similar to the A2 from Prodigy, and then the Zone and Drone from Discraft. And that's a hole I've kind of had in my bag when I switched over to Innova. And when I found the beadless gator and the mortar, it's just really been like an instant, like I put it in my bag and I'm already like relying on it in go-to situations. And it's a hit for me. But like I haven't really put anything like new that Innova's come out with in my bag lately. But my touring partner, Austin Turner, has been throwing the machete a lot, and it seems like a really nice disc. Probably like a slightly faster Predator, maybe a little bit more overstable, slower Force, kind of like that.
I don't know if
seems pretty nice.
I don't know if the flight is super unique, but definitely the feel of the disc feels a lot easier going than a Predator does, which I don't have success with forehanding. That shit comes out of the hand quite nicely. So what about you, Paul? Anything new from Prodigy coming out or already out?
Yeah, actually we do. We have a lot of stuff in the works. I don't want to give out bad information, so I'm not really going to touch base on a lot of it, but I've heard rumors of X2, X3 possibly coming out soon. One disc that I've actually just put in my bag that I'd like to touch base on, which I'm super excited about, is the M2 is now going to be available in the 350 plastic, which is our harder, I guess for Innova players, it would be DX or KC. KC rocks, like that harder mid-range, lower end plastic. And so I've been throwing some older M2s for a while, and so it's nice to actually put that disc in the bag, knowing that it's going to beat up a little faster. And I love the M2, so any new plastics and changes in that mold makes me super pumped.
Chris Dickerson was showing his off yesterday. I know he's been requesting that mold and that plastic for well over a year. And I know he's just really pumped to finally have that disc in that mold. He really likes the feel of the plastic, and he's a big fan of the M2 as well. So I'm sure that a lot of people who are M2 fans are going to like that new plastic availability.
Oh yeah, super excited. Like I said, I was on Innova for 4 or 5 years, and I really love the Time Rock, and this thing feels like it's going to be that disc for me, and I'm if not a little better, because I'll just be able to get it whenever I want and not have to pay $200 or whatever those things were when I was throwing them.
Yeah, no kidding.
I'm super excited about that, but
you're done. Yeah,
Prodigy's doing good. I hope that, like I said, I've heard the rumors about the X2 and X3, and I'm super excited for those to possibly come out soon. And
do you know, are those going to be drivers like the X1, or are those going to be like a mid-range and a fairway driver that are going to be super overstable, or like what does the 2 mean?
Yeah, I actually have the same questions, and I've been so busy with the tour and stuff. I haven't really. I actually sent a text to Phil Arthur 2 days ago, telling him that we needed to catch up so I could get a little more information. But I don't want to give any wrong information out right now, so I'm not gonna. I'm not 100% sure. I'm guessing, Germ, like
Mhm.
you, that it's gonna be a mid range, and then possibly fairway, maybe like a more not a more stable fairway, but maybe like a more like a wraith or something like that. I have no clue though. I'm just spitballing
I guess the
ideas
reason
out.
I have that
You-
question is because like although the naming system that Prodigy has is so easy for players like beginners to understand, they like one of the issues that I kind of had with it when I was with Prodigy, and one of the reasons I had suggestions to maybe have like nicknames to also go with the disc is because you kind of pigeonhole yourself when you have the D1. D1 means most overstable distance driver. Well, what if you want to make something that's more overstable than the D1? Well, that's what happened, and they ended up making the X1. Well, so what happens when you have the F1? The F1 for me wasn't that overstable. So what if you want to make a more overstable fairway driver? Well, then do you go X2? Is that like, and that's kind of where I kind of saw the
Hybrid. I think
potentially.
that's when we went with the H1, H2, H3, stuff like that. And so I think
Right.
X1 is just going to be filling in the gaps kind of in the middle of all those discs. Like the
Right.
X1's really a utility, a super utility disc. So I'm guessing that's what it's going to be, is like filling in those gaps for the D and the F series and the H series, and kind of in the
Okay.
middle of there.
Speaking of X1, Paul, do you know if they have plans to come out with that again, or is that kind of going to be out of production for the rest of its time? Do you have any update on that?
No, I think that I don't think that we're done making that disc. I think it's a super popular disc, and so that would kind of be silly for us to stop making it. I do know the
Already did
machine, the
that.
mold actually broke, and so they're rebuilding it, and I think it'll be out again. But again, I'm not at the warehouse. I don't. I
Sure.
should keep track of that stuff a little more, but being on tour right now, I'm kind of trying to
Sure.
focus on shooting my 990 golf, getting lots of cash right now. So
You're pretty busy with that. And I think it's funny that people, like I guess since, we're sponsored players, we shouldn't have all the information. But I don't know if there's ever been a time ever in my entire sponsored life that I knew something that like 25 amateurs knew before me. Like it's just I like 150 people. Like if someone gets on Reddit and everyone knows, and then I find out like 3 weeks later, oh, this disc came out. When did that come out? And people are like laughing at me, like you didn't know, and I'm like, I've never even heard of it. And so
You,
yeah, we
Jerm,
it would be nice if we had all the information, but it's not, it doesn't seem to work out that way.
yeah, and I mean, Innova and Discraft and Prodigy, we come out with so many discs that it's like it's awesome for everybody. But as touring professionals, it's tough for us to keep track of all that stuff. We have our bag dialed,
Pretty much
and
set,
so
yeah.
so a new disc that comes out, it's gonna have to be really special for me to even like think about throwing it, to try to put it in the bag
you guys are
until the off season, and then obviously I'm gonna try it all and try and work some new stuff into the bag. But it's really hard to work a brand new disc in the bag, like you with the mortar. It just so happened that was a gap in your bag and you needed it, but you were probably
Right.
searching for it.
Right. Like if a M5 or M6 comes out, you probably wouldn't even know about it until you saw someone else throwing it, because it's not something that you need.
Right, but if we came out with a super stable mid-range, comparable to like the Justice, I believe, or I think that's Latitude's version, or the new what is it, the Buzz OS, something like that. That's something that I'd be very interested in.
Mm-hmm. Right.
now. You guys are both kind of lucky because you're not Trilogy. I think they came out with like 16 total modes last week. Maybe
What?
20 new ones.
Oh, you're being sarcastic.
Jerm, you wouldn't have a chance of knowing what you're throwing. You'd just be like, yeah,
Dude.
it's my purple disc.
I'm still overwhelmed by, I mean, coming to Innova, I was like, all right, I have a pretty good idea of what I'm going to throw. And then like the more and more that like I look into it, I have like 600 discs available to me. Like old and new discs. Like I could throw like the end of an apple if I wanted to, like the gopher, the phoenix. You know what I mean? Like obviously I'm probably not going to, but like there's so many discs that like I just want to try, and like maybe it just happens to fill a really weird, quirky role in my bag, you know? But like there's so many, it is so overwhelming. I mean, I try to keep the bag as simple as possible. I'm trying to remove as many unnecessary molds in my bag as possible. But I probably have 15 unique molds in my bag, and I only have like 28 discs. And like 3 of those are Firebirds in my bag, and like 4 of them or 5 of them are Destroyers. So like, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different molds in there, and it just kind of makes things complicated. I wanted
The Pro Boss. You got the Pro Boss in there.
I got the Pro Boss in there. You've seen a lot of really great shots of that Pro Boss, and then maybe like a couple of not so great shots too. but mainly a lot of pretty cool shots. I think. I don't know.
Yeah. Alrighty.
I'm still gonna throw that thing a bunch. I think I'm gonna throw it just to spite you and take the strokes when I mess up.
Just every hole we play together, you're just throwing the Pro Boss off the tee. Like, look at this ball, it's so good.
220 foot
230,
hyzer.
yeah. Sick, dude. Dude, you'll ace it for sure. You'll ace it.
Oh, I'll have the longest ace I'll ever get in my entire life with that disc eventually. That disc is going to stay in my bag as long as I have a somewhat new Pro Boss. There's going to be one in my bag because there's nothing that flies further than that thing. It rockets out of the hand. Anyways.
All right. Well, that's kind of all I had for us tonight. One other thing I wanted to mention was I shared a highlight video someone made of Jerm's 2016 season. I think people should check that out. It's got a lot of cool shots that Jerm didn't mean to throw. So we'll have Chase and Pat, our producers, link that in the description. But I think that was all I had for me. Paul or Jerm, you guys got anything more?
Well, I just want to say thanks to all the comments that you guys have been posting on the Jomez production videos. Just really been trying to get into commentary. It's something that I really enjoy doing. Obviously, I talk a bunch, and I'm trying to not overwhelm the coverage with my commentary. I'm trying to get better. I'm reading all the comments. The good ones and the bad ones they're all helping me out. I really appreciate it. It means a lot to me that a lot of people seem to be enjoying it. And I'm going to try to keep doing that. So any feedback, please just send me a private message or comment on YouTube. And it's all appreciated. And I really appreciate it.
Well, I'm glad that the 4 people who made it this far heard that. Paul, you got anything?
No, I'm just really happy that Jerm's doing commentary. And,
shut up.
No, I'm good over on this end, man. Everything's good in the Uli land.
Right on.
So just look for me on the 7th card this weekend. That'll be exciting.
Oh, geez. I'm excited, man. I get to play with Simon and Ricky tomorrow, so it's going to be a pretty sweet battle.
For Simon and Ricky?
What's that?
You play with Simon and Ricky?
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Who else?
Chris Eads. Haven't played with him in a while.
Yeah, you guys have a really good group.
Yeah, it's going to be a good card.
Yeah, that's the best player Arkansas has, right? Chris Eads?
Oh, yeah.
Local hero.
Yep.
Awesome. Yep. All right, Brady. Well, thanks, man. I appreciate you having me on, and thank you for listening, everybody. If you catch us out there, say what up. Peace.